Let me know when.
I called one of my old students.
Yeah,
to follow
yeah.
up, and he's actually pre-approved and ready to buy a house.
Wow.
He's like, okay.
See, it was like, I'm so glad you called.
Okay.
It's so weird you called. That is what happens.
Yeah, he's like, it's so weird because you called me and I pre-approved her, and I'm like, okay. So.
This is, you guys, we can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Okay, I decided I'm gonna work for her.
Yeah.
Parents can be our rainmaker.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. You just call your people, you reach out, everybody in your sphere, and somebody is gonna say, wow, that's so amazing you called because we are looking to buy, or we are looking to sell, or we know somebody that's looking to buy or sell. That's who you're looking for. The other people, it's great, you're relationship building, and they will, and they may call you next week. These are the people right now. The whole purpose of calling is finding out who needs the services right now that you can help, right? Great.
I'm gonna be your gopher.
Sure.
Did you guys talk to Peeps?
I left a message and, but didn't say, I just said call me back when you
Yeah,
can.
okay.
And, I shared my app with somebody else there too.
Okay, great,
So, yeah.
good.
I called 7, nobody's home.
Okay, all right, and we'll find out, Sarah's writing stuff down, so that's a good sign. Hopefully she's got some stuff going on. Okay, so we're gonna, I know you've seen this funnel before on page 9. It's just a recap and refresher of the whole idea of why we do need to continuously have these conversations with people, because is every conversation gonna turn into an appointment? Right? No. Is every appointment gonna turn into an agreement? No, maybe they're not ready right now. And then even if you do have an agreement, say a listing, is a listing always gonna go into contract? Are you always gonna sell that listing? No, probably, I mean, if you're really good, 80, could be even 90% of the time, but typically stuff happens, right? And then payday, so you have to just constantly be adding to that funnel, and that's why we have you do this regularly. So we're gonna watch a little video. This is our video for today, a day in the life of a mega agent.
Hi, I'm Linda McKissick, and I want to talk to you about an ideal day in the life of a mega agent.
That's exactly what I was
First
talking
thing in the
about.
morning, have to start with getting up and getting my head right. What I've discovered is if I get my head there, my body will show up. So that typically means getting up in the morning, always exercising, getting the blood flowing, and second, reading something either spiritual or motivational, or listening to an audio tape. Jim Rohn happens to be my favorite, so he's always in one of my CD players somewhere so that I can plug him in easily. Just listening to people that are inspirational, because I think all of us need hope every day to go do what we have to do. As we get to the office, the most important thing is, because every business is a lead generation business, is what does that lead generation look like? For me, because I'm at the 7th level, one of the most important things is what key people do I need to talk with that day? And that always pops up first. Do they have what they need to succeed? And then the next thing is, who are the people we need to be doing business with? How have I communicated with them lately? What do I need to do now? Is it a phone call today? Is it a drip campaign? Is it an invitation to something? Looking for how do I communicate with those people that we want to do business with, and how do I keep furthering that relationship and moving it along? I've discovered my business energy is highest earliest in the morning, earliest in the day, and earliest in the week. So I front load my week, Monday being the most difficult day with all the contacts and all the lead generation that I need to do early in the morning. And that frees me up to have the afternoon to kind of just work on plans or projects. Typically what I find is through the week, Monday and Tuesday are heavier, and Wednesday, and by Thursday and Friday it's pretty more entrepreneurial of just off the cuff. And then the evening on Mondays or through the week is, it's always about family, because the reason we do what we do is so that we can build a great life and build great memories with our family. So our kids are very important to us. We're very involved. It's what are we going to do as a family? What do we need to do as a family? When's dinner? Where are we going to go? Or what are we going to eat? And that kind of rejuvenates me. One of my philosophies is the purpose of business is to fund life. And to me, life is all about family. And as a mega agent, your day might look different. But the key things we have to always remember is certain parts of our day have to look the same. So you might want to think about, where's my head? How can I get my head in the right place? And then we always want to remember that every business has to be lead generating. So what does your lead generation look like? Is it earliest in the morning? Is it earliest in the day? And then we always have to know that somewhere in the day we have to spend that quality time with family, because we don't want to win at business to lose at family. Thanks for watching KW Connect, and make it a great day.
Okay, ahas.
Well, I like what she said, your head has to be on straight before you start really doing it.
Yeah.
So that's a key thing for me. I need exercise in the morning and get your head straight and everything. And I said to Ann, I had an aha moment out there because, like, for my mainland people, like East Coast, I'm calling them like 10 o'clock now, it's like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
They're picking up kids, they're going grocery shopping, they're getting ready for dinner.
Yeah.
I have to call them 6, 7 o'clock our time in the morning, you know, so it's like noon or 1 o'clock,
Yeah.
you know, but.
Or later, but yeah.
Or later, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, true, right? Make adjustments there.
Mhm.
And yeah, getting your head. I mean, we know that mindset is 90%.
Mhm.
90% of your success in this.
Mhm.
That's a big percentage, which is why we have classes like Bold, because that is a huge mindset shift. Huge. Great. Other ahas? Linda McKissick.
I was reading a book and it says 5 things successful people do before 8 o'clock in the morning. So I haven't gotten
I like
through the whole book,
that.
but the first 2 were these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I love that.
And there's another one I want to read because it's actually called the 5-second rule.
Oh, yes.
And
Ken no, who is that? Ken Blanchard, or is that,
no.
no?
no, it's a lady.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Um,
I heard of
she's
that.
funny too, where she was in a time in her life where everything was just falling apart and everything like that. But anyway, she's very successful now, but one of the things she says, fear keeps us from doing things. And so her 5-second rule is, you gotta make yourself, you count to 5, you don't think about anything, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and do it.
Yeah. I like
Just don't put your
right,
mind
right.
in, what if,
Yeah, yeah.
just get out there and do it. And I saw her at a convention, and they said, pick somebody that is fearful or whatever, and so they picked somebody in the audience, somebody said, this one. And they said, what's your greatest fear? He said, singing in front of people.
Ah.
And so she goes, okay, you're gonna count to 5 and you're gonna sing a song. She went,
Ah.
and she did, she
That's
sang
awesome.
happy birthday, or
Yeah.
something like that, but
Yeah.
she did it, and she said, now, did you think you could do that?
No.
She's going like this,
That is so
But it
great.
was
What's your greatest
interesting.
fear? I'm glad she didn't say like snakes or
Yes.
like spider. No. That's great. I like that, the 5-second rule. And finding things that motivate and inspire you. Like Jim Rohn is also my favorite. So if I ever need that or want that, or I'm looking for that little extra mindset shift, for me, it's always Jim Rohn. I have a CD, it's the same one. I always play it every time. So you guys should pick something that is that way for you. So that's gonna always get you no matter what's going on. Listening to that is gonna motivate you, inspire you.
I do that every morning.
You do it every morning?
YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. I listen to Jim Rohn, Les Brown, Tony
Awesome.
Robbins, all that.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And to read the material that speaks to you, and everybody's a little bit different as
Mhm.
far as who they connect with. Huge. And Linda now also, she's in Gary Keller's Top 100 Mastermind group. She is at a 7th level, meaning she's not in her business anymore. She has a team that runs on its own. She's just running the organization from outside of it. And she also, Gary challenged her to focus on profit share because nobody wanted to pick that in their group, and she did. And now last year, her and her husband earned $1.5 million in profit share.
Wow.
Passive income. Profit share alone. Yeah, nuts, right? Focus. It's like-
Mel Robbins was her name.
Mel Robbins, yeah, okay, that's right, I have heard the 5-second rule. Okay, so page 11, where's my, what do I do with this? Okay. So in the mission, your homework, we did that, okay. In your mission, you were asked to seek out 5 different people and ask them 2 questions. Write your top 3 answers and who gave each answer below. So the questions were, was your advice? What is your advice on getting into effective production as quickly as possible? And what is your secret to longevity and prosperity in the real estate business? So who talked to people and who did you talk to? Yes, Sarah.
I talk to people for all of us.
That's a team player. Did nobody else talk to anybody? Did you guys not talk to anybody?
Only Nicole.
Well, Nicole, because we
Yeah,
asked
Nicole.
her.
Oh, okay.
On Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Okay, so let's just talk about it. What was the response? So who did you talk to and what did they say? So Sarah, you
I
can
talked to
start.
Gina Parola and Katie Zimmerman
Awesome.
and Nancy Montoya. I was in the West Side office yesterday and they were having lunch, and so I just sat myself down at the lunch
Great.
table with them and told them they weren't totally familiar with Ignite, so explained what Ignite was, explained my homework, asked them the question, and Katie's answer, I said, what is your secret to longevity and prosperity? And she said, staying in touch with people and follow up. And then Gina's was to have an entrepreneurial mindset and view this as your own individual business. And she said, I wrote down her words. I said, you have to work 12 to 14 hours a day. You have to be consistent. You have to expect inconsistent money, but if you are consistent, it will pay off.
Love it.
And I didn't realize that she was the youngest broker to get her broker's license. She got her broker's license at 24.
Awesome.
That was you.
Her name's Gina Parola. She's a broker on the west side.
That's great. Good advice. Okay. And then you guys talked to Nicole, you said, or?
On Tuesday.
Nicole was our teacher.
Oh, Nicole.
For our
she was
night
our
class.
assistant.
Nicole Burns. Oh, okay.
She just basically said lead generation is how
Yeah.
she builds relationships.
So that's longevity and prosperity, or effective production
Production.
as effectively and quickly as possible.
And I talked to Nancy Montoya, and she said she had told me this like many times before, and she still reminds me that she thinks effective production as quickly as possible is open houses, because that's how you build contacts and lead generate.
Yeah, it's definitely one component, although open houses can be very passive. Like I was talking to an agent and they said, oh, I did an open for so-and-so up in whatever, it was up country somewhere. And I said, oh, great, how'd that go? And they said, yeah, I was there for, I don't know, 5 hours and nobody came in.
Right.
So you have to be proactive when you're doing opens, meaning number one, you're using it as your office and being productive while you're there. Number two, you are proactive in getting traffic there. So you're doing your 100 postcards or flyers or mailers or door knockers or whatever to invite people and say, I'm gonna be in this area, I'm doing open houses these 2 days, who do you know that wants to take a look at the property, who do you know that might wanna buy and be your neighbor, you know? And you have those conversations. I'm doing a special preview for people that live in this area so you can look at the property without anybody else there, and we're doing that on this day. You want to make it a proactive thing. You can put it in the open house in Paragon, you can do an ad if you want, you can send it to your database, you put it on Facebook. You gotta push and promote that if we're really gonna be proactive about it. Just because, and was this true 20 years ago? No. But now, because 20 years ago, people couldn't go online and find out all the information they can about properties. So you're gonna have less traffic typically, although if you're south side condos and it's high traffic area and it's the middle of high season, curious people are gonna come in and you may get some more traffic. You just have to be you don't wanna rely on a passive part of your business, because now those conversions are a little bit less. They're still good, they can be good. It's certainly not one thing. You know, I would not say the rule of do an open house every day and you're gonna have enough business is true anymore. It's not. I mean, it could be, depending on what enough business is for you, right? I mean, we love people, you'll do an open house in Maui Meadows, pick up a $1.5 million buyer, great. Somebody did an open house in Lani Poco, they picked up a $5 million buyer. Awesome, that happens, it's great. It's just, you really wanna be proactive about it as well. Yeah, opens are good, they're just one component of your business. And then there's your follow-up system, which is good that Gina mentioned that. The 12 to 14 hours a day probably doesn't have to be true all the time.
Yeah. I think she was saying that like in the beginning, like be
You
prepared.
do want to commit, the more time you put in, as long as it's productive time and efficient time, you will get a greater payoff. That's true, especially when you're starting any business. When you're starting any business, that's true for the first couple of years. So you do want to be willing to dedicate the time that it's going to take, and yet you also want to be very purposeful about that, because if I'm lead generating, if I'm Linda McKissick or I'm you, and you're making calls and you're getting, you know, your goal is to have 3 appointments a week to hit your goal based on your conversion for the year, or 4 appointments a week, and you get all those appointments in the first day that you make the calls,
Then what?
then what? You pretty much don't have to work 12 to 14 hours, right? Because you're doing the greatest activity up front. Gina's very busy. She has tons of business. She has lots of leads. I know with her, you know, her biggest thing is helping with the systems and the follow-up and to get that referral business, because she doesn't really need to generate more leads than she's got right now. So everybody's kind of at a different place. But yes, most of us who built any kind of business worked a lot in the beginning. The good news is now we know what works, where you don't have to necessarily do that, as long as you're super purposeful about that time that you're doing. What the reality is, a lot of us aren't super purposeful. So you might say, I'm gonna do this for 3 hours and I'm gonna schedule 4 appointments, and maybe you get 1 in 3 hours, or maybe, and now you do have to add another 3 hours, right? However long that takes.
Or be available for when those people call back, like she was saying. Like,
Yes.
you spend 3 hours calling, but
Yes,
people are going to return
people leave
your calls.
messages, so you wanna make sure that you are having those follow-up conversations, yes. Okay, that's great. Longevity and prosperity. I mean, to me, everything is mindset. I'm always gonna say mindset first. Getting into production as quickly as possible, mindset. Longevity and prosperity, mindset, because you have to be able to continually run this business as a career, if that's what your goal is, right? Otherwise, you know, if you're working 12 to 14 hours a day for the first 2 years, can you burn out? Oh, you betcha.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you not burn out? One is the reason I say mindset, because you have to continuously look at you have to be growing as a person, to be changing your perspective about your business, to be helping your business grow and change and evolve. Because if you're doing the same thing for 12 to 14 hours for 2 years in a row and nothing, you know, it's the same, that's not gonna motivate you to typically continue to do it, right? So it's always a perspective shift about your business. It's a mindset, it's a continuous motivators and other external opportunities based on what you're doing and growing your business. So that's one, and then having the, which again comes with mindset, but putting the work in, having the discipline to do it, and to do what you learn and to apply what you learn. But yeah, getting into effective production. I mean, if you wanted to get a deal today, who are you gonna call? Like if I said get a deal in the next hour, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're gonna call your sphere. That is the fastest conversion you're gonna find, typically, is call your sphere. Like what just happened. That is what will happen. So that's the fastest way to get into production. Put yourself in front of your sphere. If it's being out and about and talking about it, be out and about and talk about it, and put yourself in a position where those people are, and be there and talk to them, and make sure you talk about real estate. Because if you're just out and about talking to people, or you're just calling people and saying, hey, what's up, not as good of chances of making that happen, right? And then you'll talk to somebody and have a great conversation, think, okay, they're thinking of me now. In real estate, you never ask for the business, you never ask for a referral, they go list their house next week with another agent. Oh, I forgot, we just talked. Well, yeah, but I forgot you were really, I didn't remember. That's what happens, so you really have to, all of those things. Great, okay. So let's go to page 13. So anyone can succeed, but not everyone will. We talked about that a little bit. Why? The ones who do succeed have focus, the ability to concentrate their thoughts and actions on the most important tasks. One thing you will get if you go visit the West Side office, where Sarah is, those guys are productive. Those guys are machines. Those guys are focused on effective tasks all day, every day. So if you really want to see that, if you haven't spent time over there, you've been over there, right, Ann?
No,
Have you been
I
over
haven't.
there?
No.
You might want to go and just, yeah, you got to pay for parking or whatever in the morning, but just go in, watch them start showing up at 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Like the first time I walked in, I was like,
Yeah.
there's cubicles and there's every single person and every single person's typing or talking. Like, I need
Yeah.
to get my crap together.
Yeah.
Like, where am I gonna sit? What am I gonna do? And I need to get going.
Yes.
They're like all doing stuff. And like, I left the office at 5 last night, and there were still 2 people there, and they were working a contract, and they were doing
Yeah.
it. And like, it was happening, and like, I was like, oh. This
Just
is
go
what
there and
everyone
watch.
wants to be.
Just go there and observe them
Yeah.
in a day, and you'll really see that office per capita, as far as how many people we have in that office, is the most productive of the 3 offices, meaning the smallest amount of people doing the most production, because they're so laser focused. They're so laser focused, and they treat it like a business, like a job. In fact, I mean, not in in a bad way, but they show up 8:30 and 9 o'clock. They're doing their calls. They've got their database. They're they're setting their appointments. They're working their deals. They're moving the ball forward all day till like 4:30, 5 o'clock. But guess what they do at 5 o'clock?
I'm not gonna answer that.
They go home.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't actually. I mean, Gina says,
Yeah.
yes, they may have stuff and deals going, and they may have to email and follow up.
Mhm.
But typically, like Derek Escalera, the guy is like home,
Yeah.
having dinner at 5. Like, there a lot of them are doing that. So, yes, they may have deals that they're manning, but it's a different thing. And that's not. And I'm not saying that's the best way. It is certainly a very effective way. Their challenges are more with these systems and models and the follow-up and that, because I think they spend more time than they need to on that, because they're not super plugged into our systems yet. But then you then you go into the Kihei office, you go there in the morning, go watch the 808 team lead generate, go watch the Millers lead generate. They're there every morning lead genning, every morning. And 808 team's production went from 12 million to 33 million last year, and they're gonna hit over 50 million this year, maybe more. They've already closed 24 million this year, 25 million this year. So, lead gen, and they're doing it. I mean, do they love it? Is it their favorite thing to get super excited about lead gen? Actually, they probably get more excited now because they know it produces the results they want and gives them the life that they want, and they get to help more people. So, watch it, listen to what they say, see what they're doing. They're more Kellerized, it's more the KW models in those offices, so you'll see that. Here, so our goal is starting in June, we are gonna have 2 days a week, that's part of your coaching, but we're gonna actually add in lead gen for anybody in the office that wants to do it. So you'll do script practice and lead gen Mondays and Fridays, Mondays here, Fridays there. And then I'm having Cheryl reach out to Michelle Belch to see if she wants to run it on the west side. By the way, she is the best at conversion on the phone of anybody in this company. Her scripting,
Did
setting
she use our
appointments.
scripts?
Hmm?
Did she use these scripts?
She doesn't use these specific, that may be like a version of it. She uses versions of it, but if you ever listen to her on the phone, like cold calling, she's ridiculous. She's really good. Okay, so, all right, so how do you create a plan, a personal plan, and make process your focus? So how do you, based on, what you've learned, how do you think you create a personal plan and make process your focus?
Then you gotta schedule in a specific time each week
Time
when you're
blocking.
gonna do it. Yeah.
Time block for sure. Time block for sure. Huge. And what are you time blocking for your daily?
10-4.
10-4. People ask me, I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, but people always ask me, Lisa, there's so much information, I'm learning so much, what do I do, what's the most important thing? I will always say your daily 10-4 is number one. If you do your daily 10-4, everything else will follow for you. It really is the number one most important thing you could be doing to build your business. That's it.
And
Yeah.
with the time blocking, Lisa, for me, like, I have a daughter, she's 2.5 years old, so like, I don't beat myself up if I miss that. Okay, I have 2 time blocks during the day that I try to do,
Yeah.
which is napping or self-entertain. If I miss it, I'm getting into a point now to fill it in later, so it didn't quite work just then, but I'm gonna do it definitely later. So always
Yeah.
making up for it. I
Yeah,
guess you could
it's,
say.
we call it, if you're gonna erase, replace.
Exactly.
So if you are gonna erase, you must replace
Right.
that day.
Mhm.
And if you're doing that, okay.
Mhm.
Is it more difficult or challenging to do that? Yeah, because stuff's already getting in the way of your day, and by the time that you do it, you might be more tired, you're not mentally focused, so it's more challenging, although you certainly can do that. Some people have built their business, moms with young kids, wait till their kids are in bed and it's not 8 o'clock at night and now you're making your calls. I mean, you know, that, if that's what you have to do to be able to fit that in, do it, and you'll be glad you did. Yeah, you'll be glad you did. So that's okay. It doesn't have to be in the morning, although the best time is definitely in the morning, just because of how we are as human beings, right? So yes, we're time blocking daily 10-4, following a plan, right? Having models and systems, which fortunately you guys have the ability to use in starting your business, which most of us did not have. So that's a big benefit. And aim high, right? Gary Keller says aim high. The reason you want to set big goals for yourself, because even though we were talking about me and Linda McKissick, and once I scheduled these appointments, I could stop. You don't want to think about, once I hit my goal, I'm going to stop, or the ceiling. You want to really go, okay, well, wow, if I'm able to accomplish that, I mean, ideally, then you go, what could I do if I doubled that business? What could I do if I tripled that? What if my efforts, that only took me 3 hours to set all my appointments for the week? I could work this full day, do 9 hours today, and be a month out, or whatever, in my appointments, or bring on another person to go to some of my appointments. So, you know, aim high. How do you time block? How do you time block? So we talked a little bit about that, Lonnie. We're talking about how you might have to replace that. So what does that actually mean when you think about time blocking? What are you really doing? What are the components of time blocking?
What do we do within that? What do I do within
Like, what if I say time block? What am I saying to do? If I say time block, go ahead, time block. What are you actually doing?
So lead generating, trying to make my phone calls. That's like usually the first thing I try to do.
Okay.
In the afternoon, it's more working on my database, like trying to fill in contact information, social media.
So filling in contact info, using your database. How are you physically time blocking? Like, what are you doing? How do you know it's a time block time?
And say, I'm gonna do this
You
from.
put it on your
1
calendar,
to-
right? And you actually block it out in your calendar. That's critical, because the saying goes, if it's not on your calendar,
Doesn't happen.
it doesn't exist. That's the saying, and that is absolutely true. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. So you must use your calendar and time block that out. How do you prevent distractions?
Shut the door.
Okay, so have a space you can go and shut the door where nobody can come in. How else might you protect, what we call protect your time block?
Not answer distracting calls.
Yeah.
Not respond to the laundry. Not do whatever.
Really
Focus.
focused time. That's what you're gonna do until you get it done, and you're not gonna do anything else. There's a top agent with the company, Brian Gubernick. I like to tell this story because he told us the first time I met him. He was one of the speakers at this event, which was amazing. He's so great. And he said that he was having trouble because he had an office in his Keller Williams office, and people would come into his office all the time, like while he was trying to lead gen. You know, even if you put a sign on the door, people would knock, people would walk in. You know, and he was like, this is crazy. This is my office. I want to be able to have my time focused. He literally hired his mother to sit outside his office while he was lead genning to block anybody from coming to the door. That's what he did. That's what he had to do because it was not possible for him to get it done. Yeah, he could go somewhere else, but he had an office. What, you know, that if it's not that there for what, so he hired, doesn't have to be your mom, but the idea is she physically, literally protected his time block, which was pretty cool, right? And it was an illustration to me to go, okay, that's how we're talking about this. It's serious. Like we really have to do it, whatever that takes. So, you know, what can you do, right, to protect it? Don't let people interrupt you. Let everybody know, make the world know that this is what you do every day during this time. Whoever it is that might interfere with that time, they'll get trained once they know, right? Every day I do this during this time. It's my time. Nothing else can get in the way. Are you okay with that? Now, you can't tell your you know, I mean, that's hard. You know, your 2-year-old or whatever, to be like, you can't come in, or do you understand what mommy's saying? You know, that's gonna be difficult. So, you know, you might have to come up with something different. Maybe it's somebody watching her, right?
That's where the issue is now. So.
Yeah, so during that time. And by the way, if you're paying somebody to do that, watch her, and maybe you wouldn't be paying, but say you are, would that motivate you? Would that motivate you more to get it done? Right? Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Okay, so what is that time frame? How long is it? How often are you doing it? Get in your calendar. Don't allow interruptions. The reward for focusing daily on that is huge. It's huge, it's huge. You can see that, right? Any appointment you make that turns into a sold listing or a sale on the buy side is, I mean, if you think about these calls and you're making 10 of them, and anytime you get one that turns into a deal, how much money is that? A lot. For Amber, the gal that did it in boot camp, it was a $6 million to $180,000 commission.
Wow.
And that call, that number 9 call, one call, $180,000. Could you do that every day? Right? We want instant gratification, but the idea is, no, yes, it's a pipeline. This is a pipeline business. It's gonna be 90 days out or more. You have to do that, but the good news is once you do it consistently, then those deals are coming and your money's flowing. Like, so just get over this hump and it will pay off. Okay. Number 3, how do you use accountability to keep your focus? So what are you guys doing right now, and how can you do better? What are our opportunities for accountability?
Coach.
Coach is a good one. Coach is a good one. Right? I mean, you said she made you.
Yeah, I
Is
know.
that really possible?
No, I know.
No,
but
you
I
did
just
it.
thought it sounded good.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it is
Well,
possible. I guess if
felt
she
right.
Mary
I won't go
is
into
your,
that.
for example, she might, if she's holding like your head over an iron or whatever, and you just say, pick up the phone. But it is, and it's, you know, the coaches, obviously, all of us, what we
Yeah.
want is for you to succeed,
Definitely.
right? And so, and the accountability part of it, an accountable person is a successful person. Anybody who has achieved a level of success typically is gonna be accountable to their own actions, what they do or don't do, and, you really wanna have an accountability partner and coach. I'm pretty self-accountable, and yet I will always have a coach, always. I have 2 coaches right now, every week.
Why do you
Wow.
have 2?
One is my MAPS coach, my Mega Agent Productivity Systems coach through KW, and one is Colette, my OP. Yeah, and unless you're accountable, you don't want her to be your coach. I mean, like, she's a tough cookie. She's awesome, though, right? So, having her is very helpful, and she's my mentor, and she's my coach. So, and Rich is my weekly MAPS coach. So it's a little bit different, but that's why I have 2. And then I have a martial arts coach. Okay, so how do we use accountability? Your coach, what's the purpose of it? What would you say is the purpose of accountability? What does it do for you?
Keeps you focused, helps you reach your goals.
Yeah, and is that a good thing? It's a good thing. It's goals that you said you wanted to achieve, right? We're not saying be accountable to our goals. It's what you said you wanted to achieve. And it's necessary to really do it at a high level and to keep consistency for a long time. Okay, next page. How do you make sure your environment supports your focus? I gave you a good example. So what are some things you guys can do specifically to make sure that your environment is supporting your focus? What does that mean?
Well, that was one of my problems, because I have construction going on right in my back.
Oh.
Because the Maui Louis being built, and it's
Yeah.
literally right in my backyard.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, how do I do this? You know, sometimes I can be immune, you know, but, it gets hot in the place if I close up everything, you know, and I don't like to put in turn on air conditioning and spend $400 a month
Yeah.
doing that. So I do know that their lunchtime is from 12 to 12:30.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have 2 dogs, and I hate to just leave then, you know, and say, because they're not doing well because of the construction too.
Oh.
And, and I could have talked with Nicole about this, you know, what am I gonna do? So, some of the options was go to somebody else's house that I can trust will give me my time and space, you know, and I said, you know, maybe I can go to Starbucks. And I said, you know, I'll try to figure out a way in my house where it's not gonna be so hot and still be able to hear and not have all the distractions of what's going on. So that was a big hurdle. It's a big
Yeah.
hurdle. Cause you can't use the comfort of your home. you know?
What about coming here?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, I
you
was
pay
thinking of that
$100
too,
a month.
yeah.
You come here. I mean, if there's a class going on, you can sign out the conference room, it's available, you can walk in the back workstation. Do it here. I mean, you want the environment to support you in a, you know, whatever you need to have around you that's gonna inspire you and encourage you, whatever your vision board is, whatever your goals are, have those in front of you every day, motivational things, whatever helps you. And then yes, it needs to be something you can focus, an environment you can be focused on. And if the construction is too loud for you to even be able to hear on the phone, that's not good.
Right.
And that tells me you need a different solution. I know you don't wanna leave your dogs, so maybe,
That's why I thought of my friends, cause she's got 2 dogs, and
okay,
she
so
wouldn't
you could
mind.
bring the dog
You know.
there.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah, or even
Yeah.
if you just decided to go to an office for 3 hours a day during the daily 10-4, then you're like, okay, 3 hours a day, I
Yeah.
need the dogs, that's not that long.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
for a day.
Right, too,
and
so
then-
it's not so hot for them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's cool here. Keep the AC. The other thing is if the AC helps drown out the construction noise where you can actually make calls,
Yeah,
even though it's costing you more money.
But only a
You
couple
do-
hours a day.
How many transactions do you need to cover
Right.
$4,000 a year?
yeah,
Less than one.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a worthwhile investment.
Can we use the classroom that's in Kihei?
Yeah, as long as there's no class
As long as
going
there's
on
no
in there.
class?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do we have to,
You just have to talk to Sam because she would know, or Latasha
Okay,
to see if
yeah.
there's a class going on. Yeah, during that time. So, the conference room there too. Okay, how do you keep your energy to maintain your focus? How do you maintain your energy?
exercise in the morning?
Okay, that's a good way.
Coffee.
Coffee. What else?
V8, no.
So
I'm sure a lot of
everything-
people do energy drinks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know so much anymore. They're super
I-
popular still.
They're still like that.
I know, I don't do
I saw
those.
that on the news this morning. Is it
Yeah.
for you?
Got
So
from
bad.
like cart or whatever.
Yeah.
So what if you think about the fact that everything you do, every action, every activity either is going to give you more energy or take energy away. So think about what are you doing that is adding energy and helping your energy, and if there are things you're doing that are not, that are draining your energy or giving you negative energy, you know, those are things that protect you, you know, eliminate those things. So, yeah, what do you do for energy? What's exciting? What's motivating to you? Make sure that you're always giving yourself that.
Good night's sleep.
Good amount of sleep, yeah. So on the bottom of 14 in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Energy Plan, this is what Gary Keller says. This is what he does. So I like hug, kiss, and laugh. That's a good one. Happiness is good. Okay, eating right, exercising, diet is huge. All right, page 15, accountability. So what is the 411 now that you guys should have all gone through by now and done? You've all done a 135 and a 411 at this point, yeah? So what is your 411? What does 411 stand for?
4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year.
Yep, 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. And so tell me what some of your 411s look like. So for you guys, what are your overall goals for the year? What do your each week look like for you right now? What do you have on your 411 that you're doing each week? Or each day of the week? Do you guys know your 411s?
No?
Kind of? You should know your one goal though, right? You guys know
Yeah.
your one goals, your one annual goal? You wanna share what those are and give me some examples of what you're doing to get you guys there?
My one goal, because of all that construction, is to be able to put in, new windows and new air so that it would seal up the house and so I can be comfortable in there and not listen to that stuff.
Okay, great, I like it. What's the cost for that?
Anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000.
Okay, great. So after you get your first sale and pay for that, what's your next goal?
That goal could be achieved very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. I kind of love the exercise of monetizing things just because you're like, okay, how many people do I have to help? How many properties, everything can be monetized that way. Oh, you gotta pay for your kid's college. Okay, that's $120,000. How many houses? How many more houses is that this year, right? What's my average price? Great, where can I find those people? Who do I need to talk to today? And then, great, you get one in escrow, cool. It's paying for semester 1, semester 2. I mean, it's kind of fun that you can do that. I don't know, I think it's fun, but maybe not everybody does. When I make my calls, I may not say, who do you know that can help me? Although some people do. Some people call and say, I have a goal to pay for my kids' college. Who do you know that I can help and in return will help me, right? To pay for my kids' college. I can help somebody get the property that they want and I can help fund my kids. Oh, cool. Some people actually use their goals in the script, but rather you might say, I want to help 20 people buy, sell, or invest in real estate this year. Who do you know that I can help?
I think that works when it's like an altruistic sounding goal, but when it's not an altruistic sounding goal, like I want to go on vacation.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to
Buy a
Italy
car.
next year, so like, who can I? Yeah. Right. Good point. Okay, so do you guys have? I don't know why it doesn't have actually a 411 sheet in here. This is
It does.
Oh, it does. Oh, okay. So on page 18, let's just do 1 week of the category. So we'll do the annual goal, monthly goal, and a weekly goal together, just as a reminder, but you all should have probably done this already. So on page 18, if you just put, so we're about halfway through the year, which is a good time to kind of measure where we're at. So what do we want to accomplish for the rest of this year? So say, we're saying 2019 on the top, and what is your annual goal? So whatever your annual goal is. Now in here the example is they want to add 2,400 contacts to their database and have that transfer to 25 closings this year. That's pretty good. They're tying their database directly to the number of closings they're going to have, which assumes they're going to do their touch campaigns and make their calls for that database. So what's your annual goal? Put that down. Okay. And then what about your monthly goal? How is that gonna translate into what you need to do each month? So for them, it's a measurable thing. They want 2,400 for a year, so each month for them, it's gonna be 200. Obviously, we're halfway through the year now, so they didn't make that adjustment. And then how many listing appointments to close 25 transactions? They know their conversion, and they're saying I have to go on 16 listing appointments. So what is the monthly goal that's gonna lead you to that annual goal? And I'm gonna say, okay, and then weekly goals. So in their case, they're saying week 1, look, does that look familiar? Preview 10 properties, add 50 contacts to the database, write 50 notes, call 10 meds, go on 4 listing appointments and 4 buyer appointments. So if they did that every week, they're gonna hit that goal, which is of course the daily 10-4 plus the number of appointments they're actually going on. So for me weekly, it's gonna be, okay, what'd you guys come up with? What'd you discover there? Are you remembering now what some of your 10-4s are as far as breaking down your activities? What I'm most interested for you guys is what are these weekly activities that you're doing that are gonna get you there? How are you measuring that and breaking that down?
Nicole last time, she
Yeah.
said something a little different than some of our other teachers have shared. Because all the other teachers have shared the daily 10-4 of like, this is what you need to do, period, do it. She shared, you need to be realistic, and if you're not doing that, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
So if you're not making 10 calls a day, then how many calls are you actually making a day? So if you made 3 today, then you need to make 3 every day for the next 5 days, and then next week do 3 again, and then the next week do 4 every day. So she's like,
Yeah.
instead of like kind of beating yourself up that you're not making 10 a day, 'cause
Yeah.
she's like, you might need to progress and just be
Yeah.
consistent with the 3 every day, which I was like, I think new for me or new for us, because everyone else has just said like, make your 10. If you're not making your 10, you're failing, you know.
Yeah, no, I don't think, I mean, it is a process. Well, in the boot camp, that's what I told them, because none of them, and some of them working with KW, and it was like, well, I know this is a new thing to you. If you do 10 this week, if you did, 30 the whole week, is that better or worse than what you did last week? And
Right.
everybody's like, better. Amber she only made 10, and she got a $6 million listing, and Karen did like 18 for the whole week, so it is, you want to work to improve, and if you're not used to building that habit, it's like muscles.
Yeah.
So you may need to like go to the gym and do like 10 push-ups first before you go and do like 100 push-ups.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that getting to the point where you're growing into it is fine. It really depends on how big your goals are and how quickly you want to build your business. For me,
Celebrity instructor. Whoa.
for me, in growing this office, I had a very specific goal, and it was a big and it was an ambitious goal. In order to hit it, I had to make 20 calls a day. So I did. So I went from 0 to 20 a day. That was my only focus, really, though. That was like my one thing, right? Now, it's probably, I would say, and that's not gonna be the case for everybody. I think that if you are growing your business and you have your goals in place and 3 calls is gonna get you to where you wanna go this year for your goal, do it. And it is true, don't beat yourself up, but do what you can do. Don't go, I'm gonna make 10 or I'm gonna make 0. You don't wanna do that, right? If I can't make 10, I'm gonna make 0. No. You definitely, it's better to do 3 than 0. It's better to do 4 than 0. It's better to do 2 than 0. Yeah. And you wanna build up the muscles and build up the confidence and build up the scripting and work on it. Obviously, the more you do it, the better you're gonna get, and you're gonna practice, and it's gonna get easier. Not, super easy, but yeah, sure. So start somewhere. Yep. Okay, so good. Anyone else on their weekly goals?
I'd like to get to do 25 calls a week.
Okay, great. So that's good. So if that's your goal, then say to your coach, my goal is to get to here. Can we start with this? Which I do with my coaches. They tell me I'm supposed to have 40 appointments a month. I tell them I'm not having 40 appointments a month, because if I have 40 appointments a month, it's taking too much time away from my other things that I need to do to help my agents that are here. So I said, this is my goal. My goal right now is 25 appointments a month, because I've done 40 appointments, I've done 20 appointments, and everything in between. And I've discovered, well, if I do more than 32 personally, it's out of balance with the rest of the stuff that I wanna do to make sure that I get everything else done. If I do about 25, I'm kind of in that perfect spot, where I can do everything I need to do that I feel like is in my top 20% and really important. And we're taking care of our agents that we have, and we're looking at who we want to be in business with new agents and market share, which helps everybody. So there's like and I'm teaching classes. So you find that really the way you know that is by doing it. So I think it's okay, but don't use it, as long as it's not an excuse and it's more really about building that up, and you are gonna in fact build it up, then I'm totally in support of that, right? It's just the way we know how to measure, because that's how we measure everything, by transactions, and units and appointments and conversion. So it's harder for us to have a ratio that appears without that much work being done, although it's totally fine. Everybody should always encourage you for getting better, as long as you're improving. I don't care, I'm happy. I've always said that when people say, Lisa, I don't wanna be in the top 100, I don't wanna sell a million, you know, it's great, as long as you set your goals and you're improving and working your way towards them, or getting to where you wanna go, I'll always support you, even if it's slow, compared to somebody else. Fair? Okay. Okay, so page 19, let's talk about your GCI. And I don't want you guys to ever feel this is how it has to be and there's no other way. Because I don't want you to ever feel like I've seen situations. Bold is a tester. Bold is on steroids kind of a class, okay? So Bold will push you, which is great because a lot of people need to be pushed to make changes in their lives, and Bold will train you with mindset and habits, although it can be really, you know, that fearful, or where you get to the point where you're like, oh my God, I don't wanna make 10 calls every single day, or add 10 people to my database every single day. I don't want you to give up on that though and say, okay, well I can either only make this many calls a day or I'm not doing it, or they're forcing me to do this and therefore I'm gonna do something else, because I don't want you to ever cheat yourself and go put yourself in a position now where there's no pressure at all and no accountability at all and no support and no resources, and now you're back to square one, okay? So, talk to the coaches if you have any issues with that. I'm glad that Nicole did that. Okay, so your career growth initiative, did you guys fill out, have you done this in a class where you went and filled in your calculators? Okay, so you have your CGI calculators, and have you guys gone through this tool here, which shows you the path of conversion according to your CGI? So you guys have done this, right? Listing appointments, leads to listings taken. Have you looked at the pipeline tool? That wasn't an actual CGI class, but I don't know if you guys have gone over
Yeah,
that.
they mentioned it.
Okay, so the pipeline tool, your lore report, the trend tool, listing appointments to listings taken, closings and profit. Really, those are the categories that you want to measure. I mean, everything else is integrated into that, but that's how we really measure. And then the wall of value is your ability, not just what you offer as an agent, that is your unique selling proposition and how you take care and service your client, but it's your knowledge and ability to move something from a listing taken to a closing, right? Or a buyer, a contract to a closing, because that takes skill to be able to make sure that your wall of value is there, and that equals closings, and it also equals referrals. And then on page 20, so this is your goals, it's just revisiting, and in Ignite 1, you would have done the exercise where you figured out how many transactions you needed to close a month, and then a year to get you where you wanted to go. So the idea is, at this point, we would typically have tracked enough in Ignite to know what your conversion ratios are, from calls to appointments, from appointments to contracts, contracts to close. Who has been tracking that? Any of those conversion numbers? You're saying yes.
I guess.
So do you know how many calls you guys need to make? I mean, today was one example, it's not necessarily consistent. In order, how many people do you need to talk to get an appointment? Buyer consult or a listing appointment? Do we know? Have we tracked that at all?
Calls, but
Individually, you mean, have we?
Yeah, I'd like for you to think about how many calls have you made during this Ignite series based on your tracking. You all said you were tracking your calls, right? So how many calls has that been? Where you've had conversations about real estate and asked for the business, and how many appointments have you gotten based on those calls? Do you have your track numbers with you? Do you guys know what those are? Do you keep those with you?
No.
Are they in my tracker, or is that where you're keeping them?
My 10-4 daily is the only place that I put it, but if I find out I
So
can't
can
do
you
more than
give,
that.
can you give me some ideas?
Yeah, yeah, my coaching, my tracker.
Can you give me some ideas of what your numbers are?
Okay, but we've been told that not only just calls, but also touches, talking to people and trying to get business that way, that we can include that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So when I say a call, it would be a conversation
conversation.
of some kind. And by the way, the new bold goes now, it doesn't just measure calls, voice to voice. They have social media, they have texting, and then there's like, I think even like email campaign type stuff. So it's pretty great that you can now start to integrate some of that into your lead gen as well, so that now you're broadening your ability to touch people and count those as touches, right? As opposed to just the calls.
Karen, how do you do it?
I got an email.
Oh, yeah. I didn't send myself the email last week.
I'd love to just get some idea of where you guys are at on your touches, meaning say your calls where you talk to somebody or you have that communication with them about real estate, and then appointments. I mean,
Per week, or are you saying for this whole session?
for the whole session, or,
Oh.
I mean, unless you know what your average, because you can break it down and say, well, this is what I've done, and so on the average per week it's X.
So I've tried, for me, again, it's being realistic for ourselves, you know, so I've tried between like 3 to 5 to get into contact with per week.
Okay,
And with that, I believe I have an appointment set up when I go back home. to
Right,
meet.
okay.
So out of all that, I just have potentially the one appointment.
have
thus
you
far.
been consistent with the 3 to 5,
Yeah,
so per week?
yes.
So say 4 people let's just average it out and say
Average.
4 people per week over 6 weeks. How many weeks has
6
it been?
weeks it's been,
Okay,
so possibly one.
24, so that's 24, right?
Right.
Is that right? 4 times 6?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, 24, it's a good thing I'm in a business that requires math.
Right.
Okay, so 24 appointments, 24 touches or calls or voice to voice to 1 appointment.
Possibly one appointment.
Okay,
So
so,
not terrible.
so there you go. So
Right.
that's a conversion ratio for you. And now you don't have the rest of it tracked yet because you have to do the appointment and then you wanna get more. So if this ratio continued, you would assume that for every 24 people that you talk to, you're gonna get an appointment,
Right,
right?
right.
You wouldn't know that until it happened a couple more times.
Exactly.
But once that happens, the cool thing, and I taught this in the boot camp one day, we focused a lot on conversion ratios because, and this is a big thing with Jim Rohn, I don't know, Karen, if you remember that, but, you know, he says if you do something often enough, a ratio will appear. It's an average, which is a pretty cool thing. I mean, I'm not a big math fan. I went to an art school to literally avoid having to take any more math.
And
because
now
I
you're
was
in this
not good at it.
business.
Right, and now I'm in this
Here.
business, because once I learned when you learn like algebra and geometry, it's
Yeah.
different. When you learn math where it's applicable to like buying a house
Life.
and like, you know, it's totally different. Like that I got into, but I was terrible at it. It just was like, I was a chemistry major or a botany major before I was a theater major, and I was awful at science. I mean, I liked it, I was just terrible at it, just not natural for me. So yeah, so I avoided that to not do math. But the cool thing is what you can use math for, and what's so great about it, you know, you can say it's an exact science or not, but ratios are ratios, and so you start to see those patterns emerge. And if you start to say, well, okay, for every 24 people that I talk to, I know I'm gonna have an appointment. Isn't that a different mindset when you're approaching your calls?
It is.
Then who knows what's gonna happen, and I could
Right.
be doing this for a year and never. It's awesome, because once you do that, that's how you make real estate a predictable business and a consistent business in terms of your income, is knowing what those numbers are for you.
Right.
And it's exciting to me. If I know that I talk to 24 people, I'm gonna get an appointment, how many people might I call that day? I'm probably gonna call like 100 people that day because I wanna get 4 appointments, you know, for that week or something. Or I might call 25 a day for the first week and see how I do, or I might, you know, do my 10s, or you could do 3 or 4 and still do it. It's just gonna be a slower progress. For me, I'm the type of personality that would wanna kick that thing out, like boom, okay, I know what my ratio is, and now I'm just gonna do all of that, get all my appointments, and then stop for a week and do it again. Like, that's how I like to roll. It's whatever you want. Typically though, you don't wanna then not pick it up again. You wanna make sure that you're disciplined enough to do it every week. So ratio appears on that, and then you say, okay, for every appointment I go on, my buyers, you know, depending on pre-qualifying your buyers, but those turn into, you know, every 1 in 3 is gonna buy within the next 90 days. Or every seller I meet with, 1 in 5 is gonna list with me, or 1 in 4 is gonna list with me. So now you start to predict that, right? Which you did in the first Ignite. So those are the things that you want to really look at, and I did this exercise, or a portion of this exercise, in the last team meeting. And here we can use any number we want, but for example, you know, if you say you wanna earn, so let's just revisit this real quick. So what's your gross commission income goal on page 20 for, say, the rest of this, it says 1 year from now, let's say the next 6 months. Let's say the end of 2019, what do you wanna earn in gross commission income? Put that number down. And then whatever, either your average sale price or you can use ours, just say it's $720. And then, you know, depending if it's a 6%, just use 3%, because say you got one side of the deal. So that's 21,600.
3% of 720 is 21,600.
Yeah. And then we're gonna divide A divided by C, so whatever your A number is divided by the average commission. So I'm just gonna define a little different, cost times. And whatever it is, round it up, the number for closed contracts. And then contracts pending, say assuming half of your contracts close, you're gonna need twice as many, right? So we're just gonna double the number that we just came up with in D. And 50%, do you think that's a high ratio or a low ratio? 50, if you have 50% of your deals
Fall through.
fall through,
Yeah, that seems high to me.
It's
I hope-
high.
I hope that doesn't happen.
it's high, it's super conservative. So it's great, you wanna be more conservative. On average, if you're a seasoned agent, it's about 20%, 15 to 20%.
And if you're a new agent?
It can be a little bit higher, yeah, because the idea is if you're a seasoned agent, even 15 to 20% of deals are gonna fall out, but with nothing to do with them.
You, yeah.
It's gonna be deals with buyers or whatever. But then when you're new, you may have contributed, hopefully not. So the ratio would probably go up a little bit, say 25, 30%, by another 10%. Okay, and then assuming half of your agreements lead to contracts, you'll need twice as many agreements. So we're gonna double that number that we just came up with in E of how many signed agreements we have. And then half of the agreements will need twice as many appointments, so we're gonna double F. And assuming you work 48 weeks out of the year,
So ours would be 24, because there's only half the year left.
oh yes, you're right, thank you, that's correct. So how many appointments do you need a week by even doubling those numbers, which is conservative, to hit your income goal for the rest of this year? Tell me what some of those numbers are.
I only need 1 appointment a week.
Mine says
Woo!
1, 2.
Mine's one.
One.
How we doing? Is that good? Okay, so if we know, Lonnie, for every 24 calls, you're gonna get an appointment, how many calls do you have to make a week? Not a day, a week.
So,
24.
24, a week,
yeah, that's not bad. It's doable.
right?
I don't wanna say it's not bad, it's doable.
Yes.
How many is that a day if you're calling 5 days?
5, 4.
As I said to Nicole, yes, I know I can do
5
it.
calls a day.
Am I going to?
It's so dope.
All of a sudden, your 10-4 became a 5.
Right.
Whatever. 2, 5, 4. All right? So that's bite-sizable, right?
Yeah.
That's like achievable.
Totally.
1 appointment a week, 1 appointment a week, 1 appointment a week. So that's it. You just have to figure out what you need to do to get 1 appointment a week. So far, for you, it's 24 calls. For Karen, it's like
One call.
One call.
a few calls.
Call my
Right.
one student who I know who's qualified.
Yeah.
Fine, want an appointment? You do.
Yes, boom.
Sorry.
Okay?
I know, you could call them up and say, I know you're qualified.
Yeah.
I know.
So it's just a reminder, I know we did this in class Ignite 1.
I remember now.
It's just a reminder, right? How we're really talking about things that are not super crazy, right? We're not talking about, and are people dying in this business? I mean, this is not life and death. It's really about helping people coming from contribution. And 1 appointment a week.
Is it true that, because we heard from one, that there's less than 300 people that do 2 contracts a year?
Transactions.
Transactions a year.
Transactions per year. That's what Jeannie told us.
It may be, I don't measure 2, I measure 1. So like I know out of the board, about half are closing, which is right now we have about 1,600, maybe a little more agents. So say 700 to 800 of them are closing 0
Wow.
Oh.
a year.
So Jeannie was mentioning, and you could tell us if this is correct, but like we were thinking like, well, that's, so she was saying 300 only do 2 or more transactions a year. So we're like, that leaves 1,300 real estate agents in Maui alone that aren't doing anything, but we were like, well, you have to consider timeshare people, they have their license and they have an exclusivity
Yeah, but they're not board
contract.
members. They're not
Oh.
counted in that. They're not members of the board.
So that's
1,600 is residential agents.
residential. So then we were like trying to think like, okay, well then there's those people who just get their license to buy or sell their own place.
Mhm.
And then there's people who, like half our class that thinks they're gonna do it and then doesn't do it. But
Mhm.
where's everybody else? Where's all these other numbers? Like, I don't
What
understand.
happened?
They're just people that once in a while when somebody calls them and, there's a lot of independent brokers. So small brokerages or one person.
But to make less than 1 transaction a year, you don't make any
It's
money.
not,
so
I
how
don't think
can
it's
you
that
do it?
many. So I think, half of them do nothing. I can't tell you that. 0, close 0, and half close at least 1. Okay, so 700, 800, close at least 1. As far as measuring 2, 3, I don't know. I would say probably half of the 700 to 800, like the 300 to 400 range, are making doing at least 6 closings, which is the average.
Mhm.
6 transactions.
That's the average.
Oh, that's so.
We have surrounded ourselves with very productive people and we didn't even know it.
That's right. Exactly. We are not average.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't want to be average.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be average.
No.
I mean, unless six a year, which is one every, and it's, people are spoiled here because the average price point is so high. And you're looking, this is why I love when agents move here, like the Millers, they came here from Florida. Yvonne McLean came here from Quad Cities, whatever it's called, like around Chicago and that area. Those guys are around people that are doing like 150 units, 200 units a year.
Wow.
Because they have to.
Right, I was gonna say they're cheap. They would make so much money if they did that here.
Right? And do you think their mindset is different about their business? Yeah, they're unit based and unit focused, which is what this model is. If you are unit focused, the volume will follow, the money will follow, which is what Todd's team has been doing, shifting their focus. The Whalers agents are somewhat unit focused, right? So you want to be focused on what we're talking about, the number of transactions. Because yes, some might be a condo, some might be a multi-million-dollar property, some might be, the idea is if you're unit focused, your business will be sustainable. You also have agents that are like, I only need to sell 1 or 2 luxury properties a year and I'm good. Is it okay to do that? It's whatever the person wants. Am I gonna support somebody that's doing that? Okay, although it's not gonna be the people that are really gonna grow their business, or probably not going into trainings, or probably don't have super high goals. They're probably not doing real estate full time, although they could be. So I don't want you focused on the deal,
Right.
getting this or that deal, which is sometimes people aren't a fit for this company because they'll say, Lisa, I just want to do, I'm just going to sit this open house in this area where it's going to be luxury, and once in a while somebody will walk in and maybe buy something. And it's not the way I roll. It's not the way I want you to roll. I want your life. I mean, even if you want to, okay, fine. Like I said, I'll support you, but I want you to have everything you want in life and have some control over that,
Right.
and have some purpose behind it, and make it a career, make it a business that you're serious about.
And that's, for me personally, like, I know, I'm in this. Like,
Yeah.
this is I've had multiple jobs in my life. I was a teacher, I was this and that. This is what I'm doing the rest of my life. So
Great.
for me, my pipeline, I just know it's gonna definitely happen.
Yep.
And I don't wanna beat myself up about it today.
Nope.
Cause I just
You
know-
shouldn't beat yourself up. You guys
Yeah.
mentioned that twice. That worries me. Don't
I'm doing that.
don't beat yourself up because you are new. And keep in mind, it took most of us at least 2 years to
Okay.
figure it out
That's nice
with
for you to
no
share.
guidance
No,
and no tools and
It's easier.
resources. Now,
Yeah.
should you do it before 2 years? Yeah, you should figure it out before 2 years and
Right.
start to get some deals
Right.
going and close in your pipeline, because we're giving you the ability to take a shortcut.
And all this that we've learned, like other companies don't have this.
Right.
It's so
That's
awesome
right.
to just.
And it's a lot, and it's overwhelming, and the training takes up a lot of your time at first, and the training continues. It's just not as intense as it's been right now. No, as long as you're progressing, you should have a positive mindset about it and beat yourself up. The only reason you would beat yourself up is if you are not being accountable, or you are saying that you want to do something, or you're really committed to doing something, and then you don't do it, knowing. I mean, it's different if it's ignorance, even though you should learn, right? But if it's something where you say, I'm gonna commit to this because my goal is to help my family or my whatever your big why is, and then you're not being true to your big why, well, either your big why isn't the right big why, or not big enough for you to get you motivated, or, you're not being true to that, or it's not the right business for you because you can't get excited about it. You should be excited about helping people with real estate. Now, sometimes you don't know it until you close your first deal. Because you're like, well, I'm doing this, and but once you start to get the appointments, once you start to get pendings, once you close your transaction, and then you go, oh my God, okay, it really, I think that changes you a little bit and gets you on that momentum train. So that's one of the reasons we're so big about like, yeah, Karen, it's one of the reasons we're front loading.
It's actually kind of fun for me.
Fun,
I don't
it's
know,
fun for
I
you.
like- it's
You gotta
fun. I
find the
love
fun in it.
challenge.
Fun, yeah.
Like yesterday,
Yeah.
I spent the whole, most of my day talking to escrow, to the lending company, because it's getting closer, right? And I'm I feel like I'm being pushy, but,
You just
I
wanna make
just-
sure all.
No.
yeah,
is
so
in
I
line.
wanted
No.
to make sure everything is in line.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And how's your client with it all too?
Oh, they're good. They're very effective and
Good.
efficient. Yeah.
good.
It's just
Cool that
dealing
we
with the
just have
escrow.
her in our class to bounce things off of it. Even Marion, she has one going. So that was really nice. That
Yep.
we're
Yeah.
kind of all in it in a way to
Yeah.
just learn from them.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
It
talk through
is.
their problems.
Yeah. And the only reason we want to front load it is because you're like, we have to do the 10 a day, because I know the faster you close your first deal, the better it's gonna
More
be for
momentum.
you,
Exciting.
Right.
and the more momentum. And I also know that if you don't close your deals within most agents that are brand new, there's a much higher attrition rate. It's about 30%. So people that are new licensees that end up going into business and then going out of it within 2 years. Which is one of the reasons we have this training program, because the goal is to get your momentum going, so you realize that it's doable, achievable, you start to see some success in that, and that motivates you to continue, as opposed to most companies or whatever, the way I learned, it's like, I'm out there, good luck, for 2 years, and I knew for me it was a lifelong thing. I wasn't
Right.
thinking about quitting, but a lot of people probably do quit and did quit because
And
they didn't get where they
financially,
wanted to. And
people
financially,
quit.
it can be very difficult, especially if you don't have something else. So, yeah. Okay, good. So let's look at page 21, self-reflect on our actions, evaluate wins and opportunities. So we talked about some of this already. I kind of skipped ahead. But what wins have you experienced in the last 4 weeks? So just write a couple of those things down that we talked about. What were some of your wins? And it can be anything that was a success to you. It doesn't have to be measurable by I had an appointment or I talked to this person. It can be hey, I learned a lot and I'm excited now and I'm more motivated, or it could be, I know this isn't for me, which I don't think is any of you guys, or it could be whatever, you know, whatever it is, anything. I'll give you a couple minutes to finish, do the rest of it too. What opportunities for improvement have you encountered? Go ahead and fill out the rest of those too. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Okay, let's talk about some of these. So any additional wins that we did not discuss so far that you've experienced in the last 4 weeks? You guys wanna share? Or 5 or 6 weeks?
Making good friends.
Aw, that's a nice one. Yeah, that's always a nice,
And do you mind cutting me a piece?
hash.
Okay, we have vegan, and we have one with,
Did you bake it?
God, no. It's safe, you guys. I got it
Birthday cake for
at
you
farmer's
guys.
market on my way here.
Oh.
And we have one with chocolate chips.
I'll take vegan. I'll attempt to be healthier.
Yeah. I actually would have had birthday cake for you guys today, but I offered it to the broker licensing class last night because I didn't want any to be left by the time that I left.
Oh, yeah, that's smart.
So sorry, I sacrificed you all as well, but.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
We can skip to the bottom one. How did you celebrate yourself this week?
Yeah, I know, well, I know,
Thank you.
Anne. So what opportunities for improvement have you encountered? What are you guys learning there?
For me, it's read distractions.
Yeah, it's a challenge for everyone.
It is.
If you have not read the book, The One Thing, that to me was the game changer. It was the game changer for me. That is the one, that is the book that helped me with that. So, my highest recommendation. It's a constant challenge, the good news is though, it does get easier once you start doing it, and you're able to stay in the habit of it and discipline, because then you start to do it naturally, and also protect your time and time block. And other people will start to respect your time and time block. as a result. What else?
I think the thing that I have to get myself to do is, sit down and get the presentation together, the listing and the.
Get those
buyers.
completed?
Yes.
Yeah, if they're not
Good.
ready to go and you haven't finished that in Ignite, definitely, that way you feel confident, because that can be a challenge when you're making calls, is that even if you're not consciously aware, subconsciously or unconsciously, what happens is if you know that you don't have your listing presentation or your buyer consultation ready, when you make the calls, you think like, well, I'm not prepared, like, in the back of your mind, that's affecting your ability to set the
Sure.
appointments,
But
right?
like if they
Whereas
said,
if
let's
it's,
meet in 10 minutes, you'd be like, I can't.
yeah, whereas if you're ready to go and you're ready for a buyer or a seller.
She winged it. She winged it.
Uh-oh, okay, we'll have to have you, no, thank you,
Okay.
Maria. So you wanna have that ready, because then it's like, yes, I wanna have an appointment, and you're like, great, cause you're ready, you know the buyer consultation's ready to go,